Hello everyone. Hi, good morning. I hope I am audible and my screen is visible. Can somebody confirm, please? Okay, perfect. Yeah, sorry for the delay. Actually, I was not having access, so I was unable to share and unmute myself. Okay, no worries. So let's get started without further delay. Right. So yesterday we were learning this topic, right, about data wrangling. Okay, so let's do a quick revision of data wrangling. All right. So then before that, if somebody has any further question that we can clarify, then I will do a quick revision, and then we'll be more deep diving into what more we do in EDA, because I used this one term right yesterday. EDA, we call it as exploratory data analysis. So that's also a part of data wrangling process only. So we will further deep dive into that. But before, if you have any questions, we can clarify that. No questions? Okay. If nothing, then let's get going. Yeah. Yes, Priyanka, you have any question? No? Okay. So maybe in between you can ask whenever, I will ask again. Uh, okay. So fine. Let's get going. Okay. So, so let's do a quick revision using this block, right? So again, we will learn a new example, right? Uh, just to give you more perspective that why we do all these things, right? So what is the need of it? So what are the different steps, right? So different steps, as we have already discussed, right? You have to explore, we have to clean the data, we have to make things structurized, we have to enrich it by making sure that whatever data types we are getting, whether it is correct or not, or do you have to modify something, right? Discovering, explore what is the relationship of the two variables, right? Try to see if you can visually also, if you can plot them and make some insights out of it, that whether is there any strong relationship, so you can use that for further modeling, or not. If you're not working on data modeling part, at least in the data visualization or exploration, you can provide some important useful insight, even for the dashboarding as well, right? And we do the validation also. And publishing is also, of course. So like you have Power BI or Tableau, like these tools, right, where you finalize this is gonna be your dashboard, and then finally we publish it. So what do you mean by publishing? Basically, you host it on a cloud based environment, so that you just open that link and you can access it from anywhere, right? So that's what we call publishing, ताकि आप develop कर रहे हो but somebody has to use it, right? So who will use it? So the people like in sales or marketing team might use it. People like higher level execution level, they can use it, where they are just interested to see how was the performance, how are the things, right? Or whether they can identify some pattern and take corrective action. So all these things comes under this. So we already know discovering, that is exploration, right? So you have to check what kind of data you are getting, if the data type is correct or not. Then you do structuring, right? So so structuring, all the data type, shape, sizes, everything comes under structuring only. Then you do the cleaning. So let's say if you find there are any missing values, you fill them. If there are any outliers, you remove them from your data. Okay. Then you have enriching, that is like adding sense to the data. So like yesterday we saw that, right? There was some levels, that HU and I don't know, I think T. So now those levels were not clear. But when you know, when you converted that H is house, T is townhouse, right? And I'm forgetting what is the other one, but that is, which means that we are adding some sense to data, right? We are redefining the data. Maybe it might be the column names, or it might be some values. So that's what we call enriching the data. Okay. So in this step, data is derived into new kind of data form, from the data which already exists, from cleaning into formatted manner. This is where data needs to strategize that you have in your hand and make sure that you have the best enriched data. Okay. So best way to get the refined data is to downsample, upscale it, and finally augur the data. Then you do the validation, right? So for analysis evaluation of the specific data set, quality rules are used. So after processing the data, quality and consistency are verified, which establish a strong surface to the security issues. So what kind of validation you can do? For example, अगर मान लीजिए आपके पास if you have a data in which you have a phone number, tell me one thing. If that is, let's say, Indian data, you know that if it is a mobile phone, there has to be 10 digits, correct? So if you find any number which is less than 10 digits, you have to raise a flag because that data is not valid, right? So all these quality checks we do of the data, right, that is also a part of data exploration or data wrangling only, right? So getting the data is not sufficient. Getting the all the data, like let's say if you have a data where is there is no null value, it is not sufficient enough. You should be doing these kind of quality checks also, and we will learn them in more detail in today's session only, right? So wherein so this one example I gave. Similarly, if there is an email ID, there has to be a @.com. It can be gmail.com, yahoo.com, or some organization.com, but @.com has to be there for an email ID. So these kind of checks you can do. If you, let's say, wherever you don't have @.com, which means that that ID is not valid, so you can raise the flag. So these kind of things only also comes under data wrangling process. Okay. Then you do the publishing. So this is the final part, which gives the sole purpose of entire wrangling process. So analysts prepare the wrangled data and use further down the line, which is purpose after all. So the finalized data must match its format, and so that it can be used by other teams or other people. Okay. So these are all the steps which we learned yesterday, right? Data exploration, dealing with missing values, reshaping the data, filtering the data, and others. So here again, it's the I think the similar examples which we already saw yesterday, right? So reshaping it, filtering it out, right? So all these things. So that was a quick revision. So I'll take a pause in case you guys have any questions. Okay, Priyanka, I think not able to give feedback. I think there is an option called recommendation or endorsement. I think that you can do if you're not able to give the direct feedback. Then, so I will check that option and will tell in after a break, because right, I will check that and I'll tell you the exact option. Okay. Any question from this data wrangling process? No. Okay. Any other person has any question, anything? Okay, if nothing, then let's move on. So, as we were discussing data wrangling, right? Similarly, there is this process called exploratory data analysis, right? EDA, we call it. So, all this step, whatever we learned, right, comes under this only. So now we'll be discussing about it in more detail. Okay. So first is data cleaning step. Then we have imputation technique. So imputation technique is wherever we have missing values, how do we impute it? Okay. Then we'll also learn about data analysis and visualization. So wherein we will be seeing, we already saw one method is a correlation metric to find out the relationship between two variable, right? That is one way. Other way is through the charts, through the visualization charts. So maybe it's a scatter plot or a bar plot through which these charts also we can analyze the data, right? Then we'll be looking for transformation, how we can transform it, and then we'll also be seeing there are some libraries which does it for you automatically, so you don't have to really bother about it, and we will see that how good they are and where how we can leverage it. Okay, cool. So with ED, right, what the first step we discussed, that describe a data, right? So as I told you, right, that data.info, data.describe, these are the two basic things you should do first. So what exactly it tells you? It tells you about how many number of rows are there, how many number of columns are there, what is the data type, right? How many missing data points are there. So it gives you a quick overview of all these things in one single shot. Okay, so that is, that comes under data exploration part, right? Then you have the clean data. So you have to clean the data. So in this cleaning process, what all things we do, we check for missing thing. That is one part only. Only treating with the missing value doesn't solve the purpose. You will also have to check the quality of the data. So that's what I was telling you, right? Validity of the data. So you have to find out if you have any invalid data types. So you have to correct those as well, incorrect values also, and even outliers. So we will see what are outliers. So basically, let's say your most of the data lie between 10 to 100. So you check when you do the describe function, right, that it shows you the uh, percentage quartile, right, percentiles it shows you. So let's imagine that uh, your entire data starting from min value to the 75th percentile or 90th percentile for that matter is between 100 only, but suddenly the maximum value is 1000. So what you will say, why there is a maximum value that is 1000 and 99th percentile or 95th percentile it is just 100? So those last 2 or 3 points are outlier for you, right? So you should treat your outliers as well, not just missing value but treat the outliers also. And treating the outliers, there are again two methods. One most famous is you just replace it with the highest sensible value. So let's say if you think that 95th percentile पे जो value है, let's say 100 है, so that is reasonable enough. So then you replace with that maximum value, I mean 100 value, that 95th percentile value rather than that maximum thing. So those 2-3 points you can replace with that value and you can work with it, or you can simply remove the outliers also. Okay, then you have to visualize the data distribution. So for that you have various charts like bar chart, histogram, box plots. Okay, and then calculate and visualize. So you can also check the correlation metric using that metrics which I already showed you, or you can in fact look for the plots also or heat map also. So we will see what are all these things are. Okay, so first take a look of data cleaning steps. Okay, so data cleaning and cleansing is the process of detecting and correcting the corrupt or inaccurate records, from the table or the database, and refers to identifying incomplete and incorrect, irrelevant parts of the data, and then replacing and modifying, deleting the dirty or coarse data. So डेटा क्लीनिंग में सिर्फ मिसिंग वैल्यू को ट्रीट करना नहीं आता है. You will also have to check if it is incorrect. Instead of incomplete, you also have to check incorrect and inaccurate or irrelevant information. So I already gave an example. Check if the formatting of phone number is right, if there are 10 digits. Check if email id makes sense. Check if name makes sense. Name में of course strings होना चाहिए, वहाँ numbers नहीं होने चाहिए, right? So it has to be alpha only. There should not be any numeric thing in your name column, correct? Similarly, जहाँ numbers होने चाहिए like salary हो गया, age हो गया, experience हो गया, there has to be number column. So when you are checking the data type, right, that time you can even make sure that those things are happening. So there are two things. One thing is ऐसा हो सकता है कि that is a number, right? Let's say age column. So it's a number but it is written as a string, correct? So that is one way. So of course you have to do that data conversion, right? So you have to convert your string into a number. That is one way. So we call it as this this will come under an incorrect thing, right? But what is inaccurate? Let's say अगर age column में 1000 value है. Now tell me one thing. किसी person का age 1000 हो सकता है क्या? Is it possible? at least in given area or today's thing, if that person is not divine or someone else, it is not possible, right? So which means that it is inaccurate. So try to understand what is the difference between, you know, if you have done the data type conversion, it doesn't mean that your data is valid, right? You will have to check the values also. And how you will check it? Using the describe function. तो जो हम percentile देखते हैं, that's where it tells you that what is the distribution. तो अगर किसी person का age 1000 है, it will directly show you in max value is 1000 when you are doing the data dot describe, and that's where you should immediately catch that this is not acceptable. Okay. Are you guys following, or am I going too fast? Okay, okay, perfect. Okay, fine. Right. So, what all things comes under data quality? Validity, accuracy, completeness, consistency, and uniformity. Okay. So let's see what is accuracy. So accuracy is sorry. Yes. So first is what is validity. So validity means first thing I told, data type constraint. So value in a particular column must be a particular data type, right? So if it is a number, then it's numeric. If it is a string, then it has to be character or object, right? Then it has to be a range constraint. So typically number or date should fall within a certain range, right? So let's say if you have a date column, it has to be in a certain format, right? It cannot be uh, like uh, 31st February 2020. It's not possible, right? So it has to be within certain range. It has to be valid. क्योंकि होगा क्या, अगर मान लीजिए आपने चेक किया कि ठीक है डेटा टाइप डेट कॉलम का डेट टाइम है, इट इज फाइन, but tell me one thing, 31st February, is it possible? No, right? So that's why these kind of things also should be checked. So this comes under range constraints. Then you have mandatory constraints, right? So like certain columns cannot be empty. Okay, so that is like have nothing but having like a missing value. So certain column may cannot be empty. Set membership constraint. So for example, value of a column comes from set of discrete values. So for example, if you have a blood group, then fixed set of discrete values. So for example, like as I was telling you, right? If you have a blood group column, then you know what are the known blood groups, right? AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative. Tell me one thing, C positive या D positive होता है क्या? It's not there, right? So if you try to check such a way कि मतलब C है और एक symbol होना चाहिए, मतलब एक letter होना चाहिए, एक symbol होना चाहिए, on that criteria it will pass, correct? Because it will check for a or a letter and followed by a symbol, whether it is a positive and negative. But C positive, C negative या D positive, D negative नहीं होता है, right? So for that you should have that domain knowledge. So if you know it, so I'm not saying that you will have the domain knowledge and you will know that every column is valid, but you should have that domain knowledge. So for example, hello, am I audible? Okay. Yeah, sorry about it. There was a power cut and I got disconnected. So I will reshare my screen and I will start over. Yeah. So I hope this range constraint tak I was audible, right? Okay, fine. So then we have something called mandatory constraint, जहाँ पर we have columns like which cannot be empty. So that is one thing. Then you have another thing called set membership constraint. So for example, मान लीजिए आपके पास blood group का column है, right? And you are checking the data type that there has to be a number followed by a symbol. Because typically your blood groups are O positive, O negative, right? एक letter होता है alphabetical letter followed by a symbol that is positive or negative. But tell me one thing, if you write like C plus, D plus, whether these blood groups are valid? No, right? So you have to check for all these things. And how you can check? For numerical column, it is clear. You have to do that describe, data dot describe, which will tell you, what is the range and percentile distribution and all. And for categorical column also, I have told you one thing yesterday. Can somebody tell me how will you check for, or what you will check for categorical column? Any answers? No, not true, false. So yesterday we learned that one command, right? Value counts. So what does it tell you? It will tell you that what are different levels are there and how many, what is the frequency of each level. So that way you can check whether, does it make sense or not, whether all those columns or the values are valid or not in that categorical column. Okay, so always remember this thing. For categorical column, you can do value counts, and for numerical column, you can simply do data dot describe. Okay, cool. So this is about validity. Then you can check with regular expression patterns also. So as I was telling you, right, for phone number, how you will check that is a pattern, or for Gmail ID, for email ID, right? @the rate.com you have to find. So for that you can actually, create a regular expression pattern. Now you already know how to do that, right? And you can, raise a flag wherever you see your regular pattern. I mean, expression patterns are not matching. So those you can see and check if that makes sense or not. All right. Then you have cross field validation. So certain condition that span across multiple fields must hold. For example, a patient date of discharge from hospital cannot be earlier than date of admission. So this is another important validation criteria. So it may happen that dates are valid and everything is valid, but certain columns has dependency on other. So this is a classic example. So let's say if you have a hospital data, right? So hospital data may tell me one thing, can date of discharge be prior to date of admission, right? So पहले admission होता है, right? So that date will be previous dates. Then day discharge hoga. So after 1 day or 2 day, whenever, but your date of discharge will always be greater than your date of admission. So these are some kind of checks you should be doing in your data. And we call all these steps are data quality check. So you know what? There is a term called fraudulent detection or fraud detection or something like that. Right. तो अगर आपने ये term सुना है, so in that actually all these things are only done. तो basically होता है क्या है कि आपको एक data दिया जाता है. No, it can be of any stream, right? You just have to make sure that that data is authentic or not. That is the entire process. कि वहां पर किसी ने कोई fraud तो नहीं किया है. Fraud as in कोई wrong entry तो नहीं की है.
This meeting is being recorded.
राइट. सो कोई रॉन्ग एंट्री तो नहीं की है, राइट? सो ये इसके लिए पूरे पूरे बड़े बड़े प्रोजेक्ट रन होते हैं. सो दैट इम्पॉर्टेंट दिस एंटायर प्रोसेस है. सो डोंट अंडर एस्टिमेट कि these are very basic steps and we don't have to do it. That's completely wrong. There is an entire entire process set only to do these steps. How do we make sure that whatever data we have is valid and authentic? People spend a lot of money on just to make you get, just to make sure that their data is authentic. Okay, so these steps are really important ones. So then likewise you can do cross field validation. Then there is come accuracy. So degree to which data is close to the true value, right? While defining all possible valid values allows invalid values to be easily spotted, it does not mean that they are accurate. Okay. a valid street address might not actually exist. So you have to, if possible, you have to make sure that data is accurate also. So as I was giving you example, right? Uh, Date format correct hai, but 31st February is a wrong data. It is not accurate. Okay. Similarly, if you are giving an address, so it may happen that you have given a valid street address, but that address does not exist. Another thing is, along with accuracy, you have to precise. So, for example, if somebody asks you where do you live, so you can say that I live on Earth. So you are not wrong. You live on Earth, but you have to be precise. When somebody is asking for your address, that means that you have to tell them what is your zip code, which country, state, city, and the street name, house number, apartment, all these things. So you have to be accurate as well as precise also. Okay. Then you have consistency and uniformity in your data you should have. So what is that? The degree to which data is consistent within the same data set or across multiple data sets, right? Inconsistency occurs when two values in the data set contradict each other. So for example, a valid age, say 3, might not match with the marital status, say divorce, right? So this is that example where one thing can be linked to other, right? Or let's say if you have a married column status, right? Whether married or not. So a person of age 3, a child of age 3 cannot be married, right? So similarly, a customer is recorded in two different tables with two different genders. So this is also wrong. So this is also one way, we identify duplicate transaction in this fraudulent or when we are checking of the data authenticity. These things also we check कि कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है कि for example एक पर्टिकुलर लेट्स से इनवॉइस जो होता है या इनवॉइस रेज होता है, तो टिपिकली दैट इज यूएसडी, बट some kind of fraud, right? आप एक बिल से, एक बिल नंबर से आप एक ही ट्रांजैक्शन कर सकते हो ना. No two bill book, I mean no one single bill book can have two bill same bill numbers, correct? So these are some kind of checks which you should be doing as a part of EDA. दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड यू कि अगर कोई 5 days का प्रोजेक्ट होता है, यू माइट बी वंडरिंग कि नेहा 2 दिन तक क्या करते हैं, जस्ट द डेटा एक्सप्लोरेशन. सो ऑल दीज चेक्स वी डू, मेक श्योर दैट डेटा इज ऑथेंटिक एंड वैलिड. क्योंकि अगर जब डेटा ही करेक्ट नहीं रहेगा, देन देयर इज नो पॉइंट ऑफ डूइंग फर्दर एनालिसिस, बिकॉज वट एवर इनसाइट्स इट विल बी जनरेटेड दैट वोंट बी करेक्ट. ओके. Then uniformity होना चाहिए, the degree to which data is specified using same unit of measurement, right? So for example, let's say if you have uh, a column called currency या transaction किया है, तो if everything is in USD, everything should be in USD. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि उस कॉलम में मैंने एक जगह पे डॉलर्स में मेंशन किया है, एक जगह पे INR में किया है, एक जगह पे सम और करेंसी में किया है, राइट? So all the entries should be of the same currency. If it is not there, then you have to do the conversion, right? Okay. So to give you a classic example, typically what happens is there is another column called currency in which they mention what is the currency, and there is another column called amount. तो एक जगह पे होता है 70 और एक जगह पे 100. तो ऐसा हो सकता है कि that one entry is $70, another is 100 INR. So I have to create another column where I am multiplying the conversion rate, and I'm making sure that all the amounts are in same one single currency, be it INR or be it USD, whatever it is. I have to finalize that, and I have to put a conversion ratio so that all the currencies are converted into one single currency. Then only I can compare and do the analysis. I cannot do the analysis when my data is not on the same scale. It doesn't make sense, right? Of course I know that the value which will be reflecting in dollar would be less than as compared to INR, because it is 70 times of $1 is 70 times of Indian rupees, right? So I know the values does not make sense. अगर मैं यहाँ पर बर्गर 100 रुपीज का खाती हूँ, वहां पे मुझे $3 या $4 का मिलेगा, तो आई कैन नॉट कंपेयर दोज 3-4. आई कैन नॉट एक्सपेक्ट कि मुझे इंडिया में भी 3 या 4 रुपीज का बर्गर मिलेगा, राइट? So that has to be of a same scale. Okay. Any confusion so far in data quality, data consistency, uniformity? Okay, perfect. Right. Then we have outliers. So this also something you should be checking. Now, how you can check that? What is that? Outliers are the data which is, distinctively different from the other observation. They could be real outliers or mistakes. Now, how to find them? Depending on whether feature is numeric or categorical, we can use different techniques to study and detect the outlier. One of them is box plot or histogram, or it is similar to what we do in describe, right? We look at the percentile. So that's exactly the same thing. So I will explain the histogram first if you guys don't know. Basically, what this histogram represents it, how to read it is, let's say if I have maybe, what is this column? Maybe it's age. Let's say if it is age, okay, age of the column. So what does it tell? There are almost 28 people who falls within the age of 0 to 25. So this bar represent that, this gap represented what is the range of the values. So it is saying that there, and this y-axis represent is frequency of the people, okay, or how many times that thing has happened, right? So if you plot a column over here, it shows you that there are 0 to 25 age group people. There are 28 such people. Similarly, between 25 to, let's say, 50, I think the range over here is, this block is 20. Okay, so 0 to 20, 28 hai, because this one straight bar you see, right, that is the range. Then I think 20 to 40, it is around close to 35. Then again 40 to 50 there are 20 people, and then 50 to 60 there are 10 people, like that. Okay, so that is what the histogram called. So now you can change the range, and accordingly you will see the distribution, but overall it tells you the distribution. Okay, so it is telling you that most of the people, where are most of the people, where is the biggest bar, this, right? These two bars are the biggest bar, right, for all this thing. The majority of your people belong to 0 to 40, and after 40 there are very few people. Okay, and you can see how you can find the outlier over here. So typically these are the outlier. So why there are outlier? First of all, this is beyond out of range. 150 and 175 also, their counts are very less. It's hardly one or two people, one or two people of age greater than 130. So you can say anything which is, till 100 or 120, I can consider it, and anything after 120, it's all like outlier. Okay, that's how you read histogram. Are you clear how to read histogram now, or what it is, or you want me to repeat? Clear? Okay, cool. Then there is this box plot also. So this box plot also shows the similar thing. So it's exactly same as, that describe function. So if you see this bar, this black color line you are seeing, basically this tells you what is the minimum value. This line tells, okay, this line tells you, this does not tell you exactly the max value, but it tells you, I'll come to that. What does it tell you? Okay, so let's start from here. So this first value tells you the minimum value. Then you see this box. So this box represents anything which is 25th percentile to 75th percentile. Okay, so this line, blue color line, which is at 24, that is the 25th percentile. Okay, then you see in between this box there is a green line. This shows 50th percentile. Then where this box end, that is 70th percentile, right? And then where this, so there is a fixed range that 75 percentile के कितना ज़्यादा आप extend कर सकते हो. I think that is some 1.5x of this box length. इसका कुछ इतना factor होता है. So that which we call it as a whiskers. Okay, and I think it will be there in visualization chart when we'll read about it. But I will revise again. Uh, Okay, that time also. So this is the whisker thing, and then these two are nothing but outliers, because what it is saying that this is beyond the box plot. So that is what it shows you, that whatever percentile distribution we were saying, showing you in describe function, same thing it is telling here कि minimum value इतना है, 25th percentile इतना है, 50th percentile मतलब आधे से ज्यादा जो भी लोग हैं उनका डेटा below 26 है, and that is what you were seeing from here also, right? This is other क्योंकि this is more than 50% people, these two bars, right? So this is almost close to 30, right? So same thing you are seeing here, this line is close to 30. So 50% of the people are close to 30, and then 75% people are actually between around 60, and then these two are outlier. So you can directly plot a box plot, and whatever dots you are seeing, you can clearly say there are outliers, and you can simply remove these values from your data set. That's all. That's how simple it is. Okay, any doubts reading these two charts and how we can remove outliers? No? Good. Okay, cool. So as I was telling you, right, this example, let's say if you have a data and you want to check, you can do a describe column in this describe function, and it will tell you what is your 25th percentile, 50th, 75, and max value. So likewise, you can, uh, you know, uh, identify the outliers. So for numerical feature, outlier could be too distinctive. We can look at the descriptive statistics. So we call it as descriptive statistics, right? So we can say that 168 could be an outlier because 75 of the people just have 763 value. Okay. There is another way to calculate outlier for numerical value. So basically, if you have heard about normal distribution, right? So basically, ये जो आप histogram plot करते हो, तो this also tells you that it has outlier because it is skewed. So I think I have told you what is normal distribution. So it's this bell-shaped curve we call normal distribution, right? So your data should be normal distributed. Then you can say that it does not have any outlier. Okay. And what does it mean according to the normal distribution? Simply मेरा में आउटलायर क्या होगा, जो मेरी नॉर्मल पॉपुलेशन है उससे ज्यादा दूर हो. करेक्ट. So we have these two terms, right? Mean and standard deviation. So what is mean? What is my average population? Correct. What is the value of my average population? So that is what majority of the people have. Then I have something called standard deviation, मतलब कितना ज्यादा diversity है डेटा में. Correct. So typically definition of outlier is you do mean plus minus 3 times of standard deviation. Correct. And if anything falls beyond this range, right, so that's an outlier. So for example, for this value my mean is 42 and my standard deviation is 32. Okay, so if I get a range with this 42 plus minus 3 into standard deviation, so I will be getting this minus 54 and 138. इसका मतलब any value which is in between minus 54 to 138, it is acceptable, but beyond this it is not. So with this range also you can say that 168 is an outlier. Okay, so these are actually not part of Python training, but this is part of the stats, basic stats learning, right? But Python is just a tool. Ultimately you have to do something with that, right? So I am telling you what you have to do with Python, right? So this is very important step, EDA, and that's the reason I'm going into that much detail and teaching you guys all these things. So this does not comes under Python, but it comes under like what you will do with Python, right? After learning Python, what you will do. So you should be aware about these concepts as well. So I hope identifying outliers is now clear. Okay. Similarly आप बार चार्ट्स प्लॉट कर सकते हो. So when you have a categorical column, you can simply see कि क्या मेरे levels है, उनकी क्या value है. तो basically आप value counts को ही plot करके देख सकते हो. So if anything which is any category which is very less, so by looking at this you can say that this is an outlier. because majority of them have almost a similar range, right? But this particular level has an only just two values, so you can choose to ignore it. Okay, so now what to do with outliers? So outliers are not hard to detect. We have to determine the right solution to handle them. It highly depends on data set and goal of the project. The method of handling outliers are somewhere similar to the missing data. We either drop them or adjust them and keep them. Okay, so we can refer to the missing data. So we will be learning missing data solution also now. So the same thing we can do it with the outliers as well. Okay, then we have data cleaning step. So what all different steps comes under data cleaning? सबसे पहले you will check duplicate data, duplicate rows. Then you will do the renaming of the column if needed. Then you will drop unnecessary columns. So like अगर index है या फिर roll number है, ID है, which you think that does not add much value, right? So all these unique identifiers, right, are typically only for joining the table. So let's say you have joined the table, right? Join the two data frame. Now that become irrelevant because you don't need it, right? You tell me your account number, bank account number, what details it gives? Nothing, right? So you can drop these unnecessary column which is not paying any value to your data analysis. Then you have to convert data type to other types, right? To the appropriate types. You have to remove strings in columns, right? And then change the data type and also treat for the outlier. So these are some of the basic cleaning steps which one should do when starting working, started working on some data. Okay, so let's now go to the notebook and see some of these steps, then we'll come back to the theory again. Okay, any questions so far? No questions? Okay, good then, if no questions. Okay, so same thing again, we are loading this pandas library, numpy library, and this is one another library for visualization. We call it as matplot library. So I'm simply importing matplot, and matplot के अंदर एक py plot करके library या sub function है that I'm plotting, and I'm naming it as plt because I mean you can give any name, but for short form I have given this. Okay, so I'm simply importing these three libraries, and there is already this data clean CSV file I have. Okay, and if I show you what is there, so all these things are there, okay, in this file. Okay, so then what you do, how do you start? सबसे पहले let me check, this was the quick snapshot of the data. So there are these three these columns are there. If I want to see last of the data, then I can see data dot tail, and I can give, I want to, how many records I want to see. So I want to see 10 records from here. So I'm checking that. Then I can check what is the type of the data in shape. Sorry, it's not data one. Shape is 158 and 9 column, and I can, so the one thing over here, so you see I have written two commands, but it has just given me one because it gives you always the last value, because it has overwritten this previous value. So if you want to get both the things, so first पहले वाले में आपको print करना पड़ेगा so that it is intact. I mean, if you do print, then it will show you both the things. Okay, so always remember, it will always show you result of the last thing. So whenever you want to see two results or more than two results, all the previous lines you have to write print whatever you want to see here. It's not like it won't run, it will run, but it will not show you because it is overwritten by this value. So if you want to see both values, so you have to give print in the previous lines. Okay, so here you can check that the data is data frame and this is the shape, and what is the d types of all the data or data.info आप कर सकते हो ये रहा. तो it tells you all these things कि यहाँ पर 158 entries हैं and 9 columns हैं. You can check what is the d type. Ozone numeric है, solar भी numeric है, wind है, temperature object है which is suspicious, right? Temperature should be numeric. Okay, then you have I see two column, temp C and temp also. We'll see that one by one what is the difference between the two, and if I have to remove one, right? And then we have month column, weather column, and also non-null objects. So I know that in weather there are three entries which is missing. In ozone there are around 30, how many, 38 entries which is missing, right? Only 120 non-null entries. So there is some missing data as well. Okay. Then what we do? सबसे पहले data conversion. So what I have to convert? First of all, month and day. I'm checking that it is not in the right format. Month has to be numeric, it should not be object. So I have done this month pd numeric data month. Now you might see I have given this argument error course. Agar if I won't do it, so there is null also in the data. So if I don't give it, it will give me error that it has null values and it won't convert. So that's why you have to give error codes. Iska matlab, it's not like it will fill null values, it will just not give you error, it will do the conversion. Okay. So in month you don't have, in temperature C also you don't have, right? But let's say in case if you have it, it will not give you error, otherwise it will give you error. Okay. So here I've written course will introduce any values for numerical data in the columns. Okay. Then whether it is a, actually it has to be a category type, because if I do weather ka data counts, so if I do, when I say data, right, so that time I see typically there are these three values only in weather. So let's see what are all these values are. So data weather, I can do value counts. So as you can see, right, there are just three things, three levels only. So you should be converting into a category, because yesterday we learned, right? Otherwise it will take a lot of space, memory. So that's why it is important to convert into a category. So I have done this conversion. And then now if I do data.info, you see it has been changed. So weather has been changed to category, and month is also changed to number, and this temperature is also converted into integer rather than object. Okay. So then we will check if there are any duplicates. So if I do this data dot duplicated shape, yes, it says that there is one row which is duplicate. So what you can do is, let's say if I want to see that, I can simply pass this within the data. I got it. Which one is the duplicated data? So this is the row which is duplicated. So what I can do is I can simply do data drop duplicates. So it will drop one duplicate row. So if you see shape, instead of 158, now there are 157 rows. Okay, fine. Then I also observed that this one column seems to be duplicates, right? There is this temp C and temp. So if I see values, it looks same to me, right? You could have done data dot describe, no? It will tell it, you can confirm that. If you do data dot describe, let's say data one dot describe, because we have, as you can see, temperature C and temp, these two are exactly the same thing, right? 77 mean hai, standard deviation bhi same hai, right? Mean 25 percentile, everything is same. So I know I have to drop one column. So I can drop one column by simply doing this, right? I can do this drop, give the column name and tell x is equal to 1, because it's a column wise operation. So it has been done. So now you see one column has been dropped. Then you can rename. So we already saw how to rename, like you can simply say rename and give the dictionary. So what is the now, I mean old name, and what is the new name you want to give. So you can do that by renaming. So now it has been renamed as well. Then we do outlier detection. तो outlier detection के लिए just now we saw either we can check for histogram or we can do box plot. So for histogram, there is this direct command data, like let's say ozone ka if you want to check, you can do that using just a data frame, give the column ozone, and simply do dot hist. So if you do that, it will plot that histogram for you. So as you can see here, it has plotted that histogram over here for you, right? So this way you can say that it is not looking like a normal distribution, so it may have outlier. Similarly, let's say for other column, right? Let's say if I check the same thing for temperature. So what happened? It looks like more like a normal distribution rather than this. You see, this is the difference. The normal distribution curve look like a bell-shaped curve. So typically, you see where my mouse is going, similar to this. So that's why my histogram of temperature seems to be more normally distributed rather than ozone. And we can check that also. तो हम box plot अगर करेंगे, right? So let me do the box plot. So box plotting is also simple, but उसके लिए you will have to first drop the NAs, because if you don't drop it, then you will not be able to plot the box plot. Okay, so for now let's drop the NAs, and then let me plot the box plot. So if I do that, you see this is a box plot for ozone. Now similarly, if I plot the same thing for uh, you know temp, you see यहाँ पर नहीं दिख रहा है आपको dots, right? ये दो dots यहाँ दिख रहे हैं, it is not here in this, which also confirms again that it does not have outlier. So only आपके ozone में outlier है. Okay, so these are the two ways. आप या तो histogram plot करिए और box plot, or both, for to get even more strong confirmation, right? तो यहाँ पर भी हमें देख के लग ही रहा था कि टेम्परेचर में नहीं होना चाहिए, and we confirm the same thing with the box plot. Okay, so likewise you can plot one by one all the variables and check if they have outlier or not. So let's say if you have find the outlier, let's see what are these values. Okay, so you can simply get with this command. So in here what we are doing, so this data one box, right? So in this what we do is, आप पहले outliers को extract करते हैं. How you do? Simply ये जो box plot किया हमने, now इसमें एक flyers करके option होता है, that flyers are outlier. So what you are doing is we are just checking what are the values of this outlier. So when you run this command, you will get these two values, 135 and 168. So what you can do is you can simply remove these two values from your data by simply doing this. You can, I mean, you already know, right? We have learned that how to do indexing and slicing. तो ऑलरेडी आप हटा सकते हो दैट wherever my data ozone is in 135 or 168, I don't want to have it, so I can simply have that note wala symbol and remove these two values or rows from my data. Okay, clean. I'll just take a pause if in case you guys have any question. No question, everything is crystal clear. Yes, that is true, and that's the reason I always tell you guys that please try it at your own. And I have tell you plenty of resources. And in fact, I have requested ExcelR team to extend one more session. So instead of 14, I think we are gonna have 15, one more extra session as well. And that session will only be useful if you guys will do your hands-on. So in that session, I will only and only tell you various use cases like I'm walking you through now, right? So various use cases or practical implementation of all these EDA processes. So that is entire 3 hour session I will have. Either if you have any topic in your mind which you want me to revise, like I know already know somebody requested NumPy. So that I will do. So you can tell me one day prior that which all topic you want me to revise. I will do that in that session, and then I will be taking you through all those important use cases to give you a feeling that where all we can implement whatever you have learned in this 3 weeks course. Okay, so I'm telling you before 3 days so that you can be prepared for that. If you have not still hands on any of these things, you can do that, so that you can ask questions over there, as many as questions as you want. I will be taking a quiz also in that. Okay, so I'm telling you upfront, be prepared for that. So I will be ending with a quiz note. Okay, so yeah, like all these things gonna be there. So please, this is a very golden opportunity that you guys have get. Okay, so please make maximum out of it. Yeah, with that, let's get back. And also you can tell me tomorrow or day after tomorrow which more topics you want me to revise. I can take up that. Okay, cool. uh, so let's get back. So now you can check what how to check the outliers and all. Then similarly missing values ke liye you can check. So let's say if you have very let's say if you have 100 variables, it's very difficult to read like that, like read from this table ki how many null and non-null values are there. So there is something called heat map which exists, which tells you how many null values are there. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, I will plot and I will show you. So basically there is this another library called Seaborn. Okay, so similar to Matplot, there is another library called Seaborn. I think we'll be learning tomorrow in visualization class. So tomorrow is our visualization class, in which we will be learning visualization in more detail, like we have learned this, right? So और ज़्यादा detail में learn करेंगे इसको, right? Yeah, so like Seaborn is that library, another library for visualization. So here what I'm doing is I have simply taken the column names. So as you can see on the x-axis I have all the column names, right? Then what I have in my y-axis, what is that heat map about? Similarly I have defined these two colors. So in Python there is this codes are nothing but a way to give colors. So remember I was telling you here everything is about number. Even color has their own unique numbers as an identifier. So this thing you don't have to worry about. You can get what is the color code of yellow or blue or green, right? You can easily get it. So you're just giving the two color codes, one for blue, one for yellow, because here you can see, right, two colors are there. Now what we are doing in this heat map, just try to understand that. Here what I'm doing, simply ये जो clean data में जो columns हैं is null. So let me show you. If I just run this right in a separate cell, what happens. So you see, it is just telling that the entire thing, whether it is null or not. So it has a true false thing. So wherever it is true, इसका मतलब वो null है. So I am just plotting that. So this entire frame, as you are seeing, right, it is exactly like this. आपको दिख रहा है, एक्स एक्सिस में आपके सारे कॉलम्स हैं, वाई एक्सिस में आपके सारे रोज हैं. सो दीज आर नंबर ऑफ रोज starting from 1 to 157, 158, right? So these are the entire rows. Now what all it shows is wherever it is null, only there it is yellow, and everywhere else it is blue. As you can see here clearly, temperature में आपका एक भी null value नहीं है. So if I do sum of it, right, let me do sum. तो एज यू कैन सी हियर टेम्परेचर में 0 नल वैल्यूज है. तो इसीलिए आपको यहाँ दिख रहा है टेम्परेचर का सेल है, ये ब्लॉक है पूरा, ये पूरा ब्लू है, इसका मतलब 0 नल वैल्यूज. वेदर में इफ यू सी आई सी फ्यू लाइन्स, तो वेदर का जब आप चेक करोगे, यस देर आर ओनली 3. सो दीज आर द 3 वैल्यू, राइट. देन इन मंथ यू हैव 1. In month here you have C1. In month there is 1 null value. In solar you have 7. So in solar you can check like this, there are 7. And then in ozone it has this much, many. So it, see, as I said, right, it is different way of representation. You could have simply done this. आप ये एक simple command run कर सकते हो. It will tell you column wise how many null values are there. So if that solves your purpose, that is fine, but this is just another way of representation. Let's say if you want to show in your report, right, then how will you do? तो इस तरीके से दिखाना, it is more powerful and ज़्यादा impressive लगता है, right, to show this fancy chart rather than table. क्योंकि टेबल से किसी को नंबर पढ़ना पड़ता है. It is not, our brain is not wired to read numbers. Our brain is wired to learn more out of images. तो आप खुद कभी नोटिस करना, if some blog is very much text heavy, you won't feel like reading it. बट अगर इसी की जगह पे बहुत सारे images हैं, कलरफुल टेक्स्ट है या कलरफुल images हैं, you will you have more inclination towards that blog. Same thing over here, right? दोनों ही आपको सेम ही इंफॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं, राइट, जस्ट दैट इसको पढ़ के देखना इट्स वेरी इजी कि यस ओजोन में सबसे ज्यादा मिसिंग है, फिर सोलर में है, फिर वेदर में, और फिर विंड में. वेरी क्विक. ओके, सो दिस इज जस्ट अ वे ऑफ रिप्रेजेंटेशन, सो यू कैन ट्राई इट आउट. सो सिंपली आप ऐसे प्लॉट कर सकते हो, एस एन एस हीट मैप, हम इसको हीट मैप बोलते हैं, दिस काइंड ऑफ प्लॉट्स. ओके, सो heat map, you give what is your y value, okay, and then you give your color, that's all. Cool. Fine. So that's how you check, and what you can do is you can simply get the mean value. I have already shown you. तो आप mean value निकाल सकते हो ozone का, and then you can simply do fill NA. So your ozone value will be filled. So now if you see here ozone, if I run it, you won't find, see all 38 values have been filled with mean value. So it's been taken care. So likewise you can treat the missing values. Okay. मिसिंग फॉर कैटेगोरिकल कॉलम्स ऑल्सो आप कर सकते हो. तो उसके लिए यू चेक वैल्यू काउंट्स और उससे आप मोड निकाल सकते हो. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल वेदर को आपको फिल करना है, हाउ विल यू डू इट? तो वेदर में यू नो देर आर 3 मिसिंग वैल्यूज, राइट. तो यू सिंपली हमने एक और डेटा फ्रेम बना लिया जिसमें सिर्फ वेदर है, बिकॉज आई हैव गिवन 2 brackets, right? So it's a data frame, not series. So I have got this data frame. Now in this I am simply doing the fill NA. How? Let's see what it is. तो अगर मैं उस कॉलम का मोड निकालती हूँ, व्हाट इज मोड? फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑफ एनीथिंग. तो अगर जब मैंने वैल्यू काउंट दिखाया था आपको, सो इसका जो वैल्यू काउंट था, एज यू कैन सी, S58 है, C49 है, PS47 है. सबसे ज्यादा कौन सा है? S, राइट. सो दैट्स द मोड. मोड इज नथिंग बट मैक्सिमम फ्रीक्वेंसी term. So maximum frequency is S. So I'm simply accessing this thing with dot ilog. So index location 0. So if I do dot ilog 0, इसका मतलब I'm getting S simply. So I am replacing fill NA with S. That's all. तो जब मैं ऑब्जेक्ट वापस से ऑब्जेक्ट कॉलम करूंगी, तो there will not be any null values. There will be 0, right? So all the values wherever it was null, it has been filled with S. तो अगर मैं अब दोबारा से वापस से करूंगी तो आप देखना 58 का 61 हो जाएगा. Now it is 61. Okay, because it has 3 more values have been added to this. So likewise you can treat the NA values for categorical and numerical columns, and simply you can concatenate this table with this, right? So now you have this clean data frame. Okay, cool. Then okay, yeah. So actually I have to cover this missing value theory also. So let's go back to this slide, and then I think, yeah, then we'll take a break. Okay, just by completing this missing value thing, we will take a break. So for missing values, as we discussed right already, first important thing is detection and then treatment. तो सबसे पहले आप डिटेक्ट कैसे करते हो और फिर उसको ट्रीट कैसे करोगे, राइट? सो डिटेक्शन इज वेरी सिंपल. यू कैन डू दैट बाय सिंपली इज नल डॉट सम कर सकते हो. तो इट विल टेल यू एग्जैक्टली कॉलम वाइज कितने नल वैल्यूज हैं. और यू कैन डू दिस ऑल्सो, is null any axis. So it will tell you wherever you have null values, right? In any column if you have null values, it will give you. So that's how you can treat it, and that is another way to see this heat map you can plot. So as I already told you, horizontal axis shows feature name and vertical axis shows number of observation, and yellow color represents the missing data and blue color is the otherwise. So you can quickly check which all column has the maximum missing values. treating the missing value, one is drop the observation. So if you see that there are hardly very few observations which are missing, so you can simply drop them. So list wise deletion technique kar sakte ho. In this solution we drop the entire observation if it contains a missing value, only if we are sure that missing the data is not informative. Okay, otherwise we should consider for other solution. So other solution is simply filling the mean values or filling the mode value for the categorical thing. So this is the typical thing what we do. Okay, and for dropping, so these are the various ways to drop, right? So if you do drop any, it will drop all the observation wherever it has the missing value. So if you do how all, iska matlab, if all the columns have null value in the same row, then only it will drop, otherwise it won't. Okay, then if you do x is 1, iska matlab it will drop the column if all the values are missing. So let's say if you have a column where all the values are missing, then only it will drop, because then it makes sense, right? If everything is missing, then what is the point of keeping that column? It does not give any information, so you should simply drop it. Similarly, अगर आप drop any में threshold दे सकते हो. So for example, if there are 5 non-missing value, then only drop, otherwise not. So let's say if there are only 1 or 2 missing value, you are okay to have it, right? You will of course fill it with some other value, but let's say if it is more than 50%, so typically we don't fill it with a missing value. So that is again important thing. So the general thumb rule is, if your any of the column, right, has let's say more than 30 to 40% missing value, we typically don't consider it, but because it does not make sense, right? Half of your population does not have the data. So how can you say कि जो बाकी आधी जनता का है, whatever values half population have, rest of the population will have the same values. So that's not the ideal way. So typically ये जो हम imputation करते हैं, it is acceptable only if I have 80 to 70 to 80% of data coverage. So we call this term called data coverage. तो जिसमें कि हम सबसे पहले जब हम डेटा फ्रेम के कॉलम्स एंड रोज दिखाते हैं, दैट टाइम ओनली वी शो दैट that this column has this much percentage data coverage. So basically कितने missing value है और कितने मिसिंग वैल्यू नहीं है, अदर वे अराउंड. कवरेज इज, लेट्स से इफ यू हैव 7 वैल्यू आउट ऑफ 10, सो देर आर ओनली 3 वैल्यू, इसका मतलब 70% डेटा कवरेज है, 30% मिसिंग है. So we show column wise this data coverage. So whatever data column has less than 40% of data coverage, we simply drop those columns. We don't use that information. That is, I'm telling you general practice. I'm not saying that 100% it is followed. There may be some exceptions, but mostly it is followed. So if any column which has less than 40% data coverage, we typically drop it. Okay, then it comes filling null values. So you can simply replace it with 0 or mean value, and you can check with is null or not null, whether it is value is missing or non-missing. Okay, so we have already checked this. Then we'll come to the scatter plot. Okay, so let's take a break. Okay, let's take a 15-minute break. So let's come back at 12:35. Then we'll resume to the other thing. Okay, let's come back at 12:35. Okay, cool. Hello everyone. I hope everyone has been back from the break. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, yeah. So first thing first, Prince, I think you were asking about the LinkedIn that you are not able to give, right? So I hope my screen is visible. Yeah. So like if you can go to this recommendation section, right? So basically you can go to your profile and check out there is a recommendation section. So herein you can just click on this link and just say give recommendation. So in this give recommendation you can search for people, and if you do continue, I mean asking, let's say if I search somebody, and then if I do continue, so here you can just select a relationship position, and then maybe you can give add the recommendation. That's all. So likewise, you can give recommendation to anybody, and even you can ask for recommendation if you want. It just shows this here. Ask for a recommendation. Uh, okay, so yeah. Okay, so with that, like you can give your feedback. So I would request everyone, all of you, to if you can just spend some time and give your recommendation. So I can, I'm just again posting my profile link over here, uh, so that you can find me and get connected with me. Okay, fine. Let's get started. So let's be back to the scatter plot and correlation metric, what we were learning. So I already explained you what is correlation metric. So this will be, just be quickly revising to that, and will be understanding in a better, more detailed manner. So first of all, what is scatter plot, right? So a scatter plot, or we call it a scatter chart or graph. So it's just a dot representation value of two different numerical variable. Okay. So always remember both the variables has to be numeric. Okay, and you are simply placing a dot. So for example, let's say you have these many observation. So what you are doing, simply आपका temperature x-axis है and sales is y-axis. So you are checking if temperature is 14 degrees, sales is this much. So this is this dot, right? I mean this dot. Okay, similarly, if temperature is something else, then this is your sales. So same temperature is 12 degree, then your sales is 200. Similarly, temperature is 18, your sales is around 400, like that. Okay, so instead of line, you have just created a dots. So we call it as a scatter plot, because it is all scattered, right? If you connect a line, then it will be so many zigzags, and that's the reason, you typically we plot scatter plot. And when we try to get the trend line, so if I ask you to draw a trend line of this, it will be something similar to this, right? Isn't it? So trend line is, of course, it is not gonna go through all the points, because as I said, right, then it will be so much zigzaggy and complex line. If I ask you to draw one single horizontal, not horizontal, straight line, so it will be as close as possible to all the points. So we call it as trend line, correct? So that is a trend line for this. Okay, so as I was talking about the correlation, right? So this is what correlation is. So basically we saw this trend line is up, right? It is going upward direction. So which means that you can say if temperature is increasing, your sales is increasing. So you can see that if temperature is 12, your sales is 200. If temperature is 24, your sales is also around 600. Okay, so it is increasing, and what amount it is increasing, we call that correlation value. Okay, so by looking at this, I can say that it is strongly correlated, and if you check the correlation value, that will also, you see, it will be greater than zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6, like that. Similarly, let's say if you have this relation kind of a relationship, let's say if you have two variable, that is cigarette in years. So some if somebody is smoking cigarette for these many years, so what is the lung capacity? So as you can see, if it is 0, then it is 45. If it is 20, then it is 29. So if you put these plots, so you can see it's a downward trend. So it's not a kind of a straight line, but it is this kind of a thing, right? So even if I have to draw a trend line, which is a straight line, so it is a downward trend. So I know if my number of years of smoking is increasing, my lung capacity is gonna decrease. Because right, so the more I will have cigarette, the more damage will be there to my lungs, and there will be capacity will be reduced. Okay, so that's how we identify if there is any positive relationship or a negative relationship. So we call this term as correlation or Pearson correlation. So the formula, if you see to calculate it, how those values were coming. Yesterday we were checking zero point 0.5, 0.31. So how those value are actually calculated, it is using this formula. But you don't have to go into that much detail because we already know, right? You just have to put data.core. That's all. All the calculation will be done on your behalf. But you should be aware how it is done, and that's how it is done. So if you see, we are simply checking x is variable and y is another variable. We are checking what is the variation of one with respect to other. So typically we call it as a standard deviation if you check, right? So this x bar is nothing but mean value of x. Similarly, y bar is mean value of y, and I'm subtracting my mean value to the individual values, and then I'm multiplying the two, and then simply dividing by standard deviation of the two, and that is my R, or I call it as Pearson correlation. So you will see there are various correlation way to calculate. So this formula, so simply, there will be here some slight difference here and there in the formula. Okay, but overall semantics does not change. Overall correlation is typically this only. It tells you how a strong correlationship is. So if it is 0, iska matlab it is a low correlationship, right? There is a very low relationship. If it is +1, it is a high correlation, and even -1 also is a high correlation. The only thing plus and minus is it is positive relationship, it is negative relationship. Positive is one is moving up, other is also moving up. If it is negative, both have inverse relationship. If one is moving up, other will go down, or vice versa. Okay, but both have strong relationship. अगर कुछ negative है, we cannot say that it's not strong. It is strong. It's just that it is in opposite direction. That's all. Okay, cool. And as I was telling you, right? Typically the ranges. So R will always be between -1 to +1. Okay, the strength increases as R moves away from 0 towards either +1 or -1. Extreme value are this, right, which shows perfect linear relationship, and that's why you were seeing that the diagonal elements are always 1. क्योंकि खुद का खुद से relationship will always be a perfect straight line. All the points will match exactly, and I will show you that example also. Okay, then the interpretation is it is, if it is between 0.1 to 0.3, it is weak. 0.4 to 0.7 moderate, and greater than 0.7, it is strongly relationship. Now it can be both direction, positive or negative. So this will hold true. Okay, so by looking at this, what we can say, ये दोनों chart में, first chart is it is positively correlated. The more x, the more y, less x, less y. Similarly here it is in negative direction, so it's a negative correlation. जैसे जैसे मेरा x बढ़ रहा है, my y is decreasing. Okay, then here as you can see, so this is scattered like this, right? So again here this is positively correlated. So here relationship is around 0.7 because it's mostly close to a trend line, right? Similarly here it is very much close to a trend line, so it is minus 0.7. Now this, as you can see, it is no correlation, so it is 0. Because if you draw a trend line, can you draw a trend line? ये मुझे एक circle जैसा लगता है. If I have to draw a trend line, isn't it? See, not even a circle. मतलब what I mean to say is there is no relationship at all, right? क्योंकि why I'm saying this, if x is less, so आप ऐसे देखो, ये line draw करके देखो. So for the same value of y, you have these many ranges of x. So if your x is less, then also your y is the same value. If your x is maximum, then also your y has same value. इसका मतलब कुछ relationship ही नहीं है ना दोनों का. Value of x does not matter whatever is the value of y, because I am seeing multiple values of x's whereas same value of y at the same time, isn't it? Even you can do the same thing. If you draw it like this, what does this line show? Like for the same value x, you have these many values of y. For the same, let's say अगर ये x2 है तो यहाँ पे y के value 10 भी है और 100 भी है, if this range is between 10 to 100. So ideally it is not changing. Value of y is not changing along with x, and that's the reason I'm saying that it has zero correlationship. Okay. Cool. So these are some more detailed examples to make you guys understand. So as you can see here, if it is scattered like this in a circular fashion, iska matlab it has zero correlationship. Similarly, as you move along, so like typically point 4, you will see something like this. मतलब जितना ज़्यादा it will be diverged, it will be converged towards a straight line, right? It is more, more strongly correlated. So as you can see the difference between point 8 and point 4, right? Because typically these kind of patterns you see in practical, आपको ना ही zero जैसा दिखेगा ना ही 100% दिखेगा. You will see something in a ranges only. So the more converged it is towards a line, कि आप ये देखो ना, ये जितना ज्यादा bind है, जितना ज्यादा aligned है towards straight line, it is more strong as comparative to this. So as you can see, only direction has changed. So this is positive and this is negative. Okay. Similarly here, if it is a straight line like this, it will be 0. Right. So all these things, the more inclination will be there, it will be, it now, this is all one. Doesn't matter, the angle does not matter. या तो वो ऐसा है ऐसा है ऐसा है, angle does not matter. If it is a horizontal line, then it's 0. Otherwise, if you have lines like this, इसका मतलब it has all ones. Okay, strongly correlated. Similarly, all the other shapes apart from straight line, it is all 0. क्योंकि just now I showed you, no matter however my x are changing, I might see same value of y. So there is no relationship between the two. Okay. So I hope now it is very clear how to check the correlationship between two variables, how to read the scatter plot. So if I ask you, how can you select, let's say 10 variables out of 20 or 30, I hope you should be able to do it by now. Okay, so this is that capacity wala thing, and if you calculate the formula, you can get this R. So it is negative 0.96, which indicates that it has strong negative relationship. Okay, clear? So let's quickly go back to the notebook and see. So in Python, your life is very easy. You don't have to, worry about plotting all those charts, everything and all, right? It is just one command you have to run. If you want to see charts, then there is this library Seaborn we just now see. This is a visualization library. You just called sns.pairplot. That's all. And you give your data frame. So if I run this, you can see now it's taking time because it is plotting all the possible combination. And this command you already know that in the data you just do core. So I will run both and you see the difference. So what it has done, so you already know this table, right? So first I'll explain you this table again. So in this table, it simply take all the columns, right? And it try to give all the columns, that much square metric. So as you can see with the diagonal element, it is always 1, because if you plot ozone with ozone, you will always gonna have a straight line, right? So likewise, you can see that this is your correlation metric. Similar to that, you have the metric of plots. So exactly same hai, just that instead of one value, you have got plots. So how to read about it? Simply आप देख सकते हो ओजोन, सोलर, विंड है, right? So this is your y axis, and then here also it is that. तो अगर आप ये चार्ट देखो, this chart is between ozone and temp. Okay. Similarly, this chart is between ozone and year. This chart is ozone and day. Similarly, आप यहाँ देखोगे ओजोन का ओजोन के संग चार्ट है ये. ओके, क्लियर. सो सिमिलरली आप यहाँ जाओगे, द सेकेंड रो इट इज सोलर. तो सोलर का टेम्परेचर के संग है. देन ये चार्ट सोलर के संग है. तो जहां पे भी जो आप डायगोनल एलिमेंट देख रहे हो ना, क्योंकि स्कैटर प्लॉट तो आपको स्ट्रेट लाइन मिलेगा, सो इंस्टेड ऑफ दैट दे आर जस्ट शोइंग द हिस्टोग्राम. सो वेयर एवर यू सी हिस्टोग्राम, दैट इज नथिंग बट अ डायगोनल एलिमेंट. दे आर जस्ट शोइंग द हिस्टोग्राम, क्योंकि सिर्फ एक स्ट्रेट लाइन दिखाने का मतलब नहीं है ना. सो दे आर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू गिव यू मोर इन्फॉर्मेशन. So wherever you see diagonal element, you are seeing histogram that shows you that what kind of distribution you have, okay, in your data. So these are the two ways, it is your choice. So typically what we do is we try with scatter plot. So we try to visualize how the data look like. So by looking at this I can see at least कि ये पूरा completely scattered है. So at least these this one is not important. Even this also not important. So what are these variables? Actually ozone, with respect to this, right? Solar से ना ही ओजोन इतना ज्यादा स्ट्रांगली कनेक्टेड है, ना ही विंड, नहीं है. But I know for sure ozone and temperature are strongly correlated, right? You see, there is some kind of pattern I see. And let's look at here, right? Value say you can confirm that same thing. So ozone and temperature ka if I see, so correlation you see around 0.6 hai, which is good, right? As comparative to other things. Similarly, ozone ka wind se bhi my negative 0.5 hai, but it's good. So let's see ozone and wind, right? So ozone and wind kahan hai, ye raha. As you can see, trend line is somewhat negative side, right? So that's what we are seeing. Like I told you one thing, right? Even though on a standard term, like on an absolute term, I showed you that anything which is greater than 0.7 is strong. So but in this entire sheet you are not seeing any value which is greater than 0.7, correct? The maximum you have is 0.6. So that's what I am saying कि इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कुछ भी you will say nothing is strongly correlated. No, it has to be on a relative term. So by at least looking at this, you should be able to say yes, for ozone, temperature is important, wind is important. At least these, or at least solar is important. So at least these three variable I will consider, other I will drop. Okay. So these kind of things you can make use out of it, or give these kind of insights you can generate. Okay. I hope correlation metric, reading the plot, that is clear. If you have any confusion over there, you can just clarify right away. No confusion? Okay, good then. Then let's get going. So then we will also learn transformation. So there is this another thing also comes under EDA, that is transformation. Okay. So what we do is dummy variable and feature scaling. So let's see what does it mean. Okay. So as I was telling you, right, Python always need everything into numbers. It does not understand uh, strings. Okay. So very simple reason for explanation is, so let's say in this same example, you have everything as a number, just this weather is not there, right? So only this weather column has strings. So what it will do, what Python wanted, the format is, it also has to be there in a numerical format. Okay, or a numerical value rather than a categorical thing. So how you can convert it? Simply, अगर मैं इस डेटा को इस तरीके से कन्वर्ट कर दूं, तो it will be converted into a numerical format. And what I have done, instead of this weather column, I have created three more columns: weather C, weather PS and weather S. तो जितने भी लेवल्स हैं उतने ही नंबर ऑफ कॉलम्स आई हैव एडेड. अगर यहाँ 5 लेवल्स होते, आई कुड हैव एडेड 5 कॉलम्स. Okay. And of course, let's say अगर यहाँ 100 levels होते तो you are not going to add 100 levels, because then you are diluting the information. You are giving too much information which is irrelevant, right? So in that way, what you should be, what is the standard practice is, you do the value count, you check what is your top 5 levels, and you just have those top 5 levels, and everything else you just club into another category called others. तो होता क्या है ना, जैसे आप ऐसे देख लो कि मान लीजिए you are tracking the population of some countries, right? So you are not interested in all the countries which exist. No, I am only interested in top 5 countries जिनका population ज्यादा आता है, बाकी को I will put everything into one bucket, that I will call it as others. The same thing you can do over here. So let's say if in this weather category you are having 10 or 20 category, you could have just do a simple value count. You could have said that okay, only top 3 I'm interested, so you will select these top 3, and rest of the things you will say everything is others. Okay, so in that case you will have 4 columns: weather C, PS, weather S, and weather others. Okay, now how you fill this value? Simply आपका जो value है that will be 1 and other thing will be 0. So as in this case, first row is S, right? So whether S will be 1, other two will be 0. So how, what it will ensure is, basically you have just one single one for the entire row, because you will have just one value na? It is not possible that for the same row you will have C also and S also. So same way it is not possible for, you know, two column of this having one. So it has to, it can be only one single, you know, one value over here. So that's how we do the conversion, and we call it as dummy variable. Is this concept clear, or should I repeat one more time? Creating a dummy variable. Okay, let me repeat. Yeah, sorry. Let me repeat. So what happened with Python is, whenever you are doing some analysis, right? So till analysis it is fine, right? So I am talking about when you are going towards modeling side, right? So that time it is important. So for modeling, because every model you pick, it just understand numbers, it does not understand anything else. So it is important that you have to convert your categorical or your string columns into numerical variable. Now, one easy way to do that is creating dummy variables. Now, what are these dummy variables? Simply, you check in your categorical column how many levels are there, and you create those many columns. Okay, so for example, in here I know there are 3 levels: S, C, PS. I have created 3 columns: whether C, whether PS, whether S, to make sure, let's say for first row, if what is the value S, so I know only whether S will be 1, other two will be 0. Correct? Similarly, in row 2, I know it is C. So whether C will be 1, other two will be 0. Similarly, third row, it is PS. So PS is 1, other two are 0. Similarly, fourth, it is S. So S is 1, other two are 0. And same thing with the fifth line. So likewise, it will go. So सिर्फ आपके number of columns will add on. Okay, now how much it will add on is up to you. So let's say if you have too many levels, let's say अगर मुझे यहाँ पे 10 या 20 levels होते, तो instead of creating 10 or 20 columns, what I could have done is, I will just say that I am only interested in top 3 or top 4. तो बाकी others को I will put it into one single bucket called others, and I will create another column called whether others, जिसमें कि जब भी ये तीनों नहीं होंगे तो others will have 1 and all these 3 values will have 0. Okay, so this seems complicated, but when you do in Python it's just one single line. तो हम इसको there are two ways to do it. Either you can directly do pd get dummies and give the data frame, or you can just do a one hot encoding from another library. Okay, so let's quickly check it out how we can do it. Simply let's likewise you can do. So you have categorical column name weather. So what you can do is simply आप pd.getDummies करके function है pandas library में ही, you give your data, right, what data you want, and you can give your column name. So weather is my column, right, which I want to convert it into. We just run this and see. You see, With this just one single line, you have got this three additional thing and everything is sorted. That's all. Got it? That's how easy it is. So typically we do it for all the categorical columns before passing into the model. Okay, cool. So this was one kind of a transformation, creating dummy variable. There is another transformation also. So what is the transformation? If I show you in this data, you can see, let me do this data.describe. Okay. So in data.describe, as I said, right, it tells you the distribution of the data, right? तो आप यहाँ देख सकते हो कि ओजोन है, उसका रेंज क्या है 1 से लेके 168 तक, करेक्ट. सोलर का रेंज क्या है 7 से लेके 334 तक. विंड का रेंज है 1.7 से लेके 20 तक, करेक्ट. सिमिलरली टेम्परेचर का है 9 से लेके 97 तक, राइट. सो व्हाट आई एम सीइंग इज इट इज नॉट, so one thing is you have to check the data range within the column, so that is one thing. So आप उससे outlier check करते हो, correct. So if you see, I know you know that this is the outlier, correct. 61 से directly 168 jump हुआ, 257 से 134 334 इतना ज्यादा नहीं है, right, but 61 से 168 है, तो you know that there was an outlier and you already saw that plotting the box plot and histogram. So that is one thing. Other thing is, across variable also you have to be careful about the ranges. So what I'm trying to mean here is, you know that ozone का variation 1 से लेके 168 तक है, सोलर का 7 से लेके 334 तक है, बट विंड का सिर्फ 1.7 से 20 है. तो what happen is there is lot of difference, you know, in the ranges of two variable across, I'm saying. Okay, of course it is not the problem, right, because it's not like my data is wrong. No, it is correct, क्योंकि मेरा जो विंड है उस वो एक दूसरे मेजरमेंट में होता है, राइट. इट इज मेजर्ड इन लेट्स से विंड पर आवर, तो वो टिपिकल रेंज है. सिमिलरली सोलर है तो ये रहेगा, राइट. टेम्परेचर है तो उसका रेंज उतना ज्यादा रहेगा. तो दोज आर रियल वैल्यूज, जस्ट दैट when I'm putting them in model, so my model will get distorted. So it's a problem for model building, it is not a problem for data. Okay, so there is another kind of a transformation we have to do. So what it does is, basically ये बोलता है कि आप इन सबको हम scale कर देते हैं, तो all the columns will be scaled within a single range. So we say that instead of having different ranges ना, कि सोलर का इतना ज्यादा रेंज है, विंड का इतना कम है, तो मेरे मॉडल का डिस्टॉर्ट होने का चांसेस रहता है, एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई जस्ट स्केल एवरीथिंग टू अ सिंगल स्केल, लेट्स से 0 to 1 और -1 to 1. तो मेरे किसी भी कॉलम की वैल्यू उससे ज्यादा या कम होगी ही नहीं. एवरीथिंग will be in the range of 0 to 1 or -1 to 1, whatever range you choose. So we call this as a feature scaling or feature standardization. Okay, and reason is very simple, because it will distort your model if you have various difference, right. Imagine ki if you are measuring the weight of a person and then salary of a person, so salary might be in lakhs and weight will be within 100, right. So it's a huge difference, just because those two variables are bound to be like that, right. Weight will be typically less than 100 and salary will be typically in lakhs, right. So you have to bring them everything into a same scale, and we call this process as feature scaling. Okay, so let's see how do we do it. So what this feature scaling is, some machine learning algorithm. So again, this is, as I said, right, this may not be so important for data analysis, because data analysis may you can show in the chart visualization that these are the things, so that is fine. But for modeling perspective it becomes important, so you should be aware about it. Okay, so these are sensitive to feature scaling, means result will vary based on the units of feature. So remove the effect of scaling, right. So we have to do the feature scaling, and how we can do it, simply there are two ways: standardization and normalization. So what standardization does is, it's a scaling technique where values are centered around the mean, so range is -1 to 1. So that is the only difference. Standardization ka range jota hai -1 to 1, because here let's say you have some value you first get the mean of entire column and standard deviation of the column, and you simply subtract from this value and divide by standard deviation. That's all. तो होगा क्या इस केस में ही let's do that calculation for one. Okay, so let me show you one thing. Let's say data clean dot head 5, right? तो पहले वाले केस में ही लेते हैं. तो वैल्यू क्या होगा इसका, स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन करके आएगा. तो फर्स्ट वैल्यू हाउ इट विल बी कन्वर्टेड, 41 माइनस मीन क्या है इसका, वी सॉ हियर 41.58. so mean is 41.58 divide by standard deviation. So what is standard deviation? 32.62. So I'm just taking a round of number. So it came around this minus 0.17. Okay, so this is from the standardization, right? So let me do the same thing. So again आपको ये calculation खुद से नहीं करना है. There is a direct way in Python. So what you can do is there is this sklearn library is there, and from that you can call pre-processing and import mix min max scalar. So once you do that, it's very easy. You get all the values in an array. You define that scale. So in this scale, I'm defining what should be my range. So let's say I give my range to -1 to 1 for now, right? And this scale I'm simply transforming and I'm giving my array. That's all. Okay, so let's see what happens if I do that. Okay, just a second. Standard scalar. Yep. Sorry. This one is min max. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So similar. So there. Yeah. So this standard scaling we were talking about, right? So x minus mu divided by standard deviation. So you can directly call this a standard scalar from here. sklearn pre-processing. So as you can see here, सबसे पहले हमने सिर्फ values को store किया है एक array में. Then we are simply calling this a standard scalar and fitting the array in this, right? And I'm simply doing a transformation. So this rescaled value, what I see over here, right? So let me show you. This is the scalar what we have defined, right? Sorry. This is the scalar what we have defined, standard scalar, and then I'm simply transforming my array. So if I do this rescaled x, so what it does is it shows me the entire rescaled version. So if you see here, entire range, it will be between -1 to 1. And जो मेरी first value आप देखो -0.02 है, which is this, right? After rounding off, you will get that only, right? So that's the one I am getting. Similarly, अब ये देखना है आपको 0.73 कैसे आया, that is the last value, right? So let me do tail. So it is around 18, right? Oh yeah. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So what is the shape of this? Let me check. So it is 158.11, and in here also I will have yeah 158.11, right? So in here I'm just checking what is the value. Rescaled x, right? So likewise you can calculate each of the value and make sure that you are getting the value within the same range. Okay, so similarly as you can see here 0.85, you have -0.73. So from where these values are coming, if I do this data cleaned tail, right, and if I check here, so ideally it should be from here. Just a second, I'm just making sure that it is the same columns, right? Yeah. Yep. So you can calculate and check it like that, but the whole point is that that's how you are doing the standardization. So you are bringing everything between minus 1 to 1 by simply calling this scale and fitting everything. Just one, two line of command, you are doing that. And why we are doing it? Because now all the values are between minus 1 to 1, so I don't have any confusion, or my model will not be confused just because one of the variable has too high values as comparative to other value. So that is one way to do it. Similarly, other way is uh, that standardization was the one, and another we called as normalization. So in this, what happened is only there is a change of formula. Okay, typically we prefer normalization just because we don't want to deal with negative values. I mean, again, it is individual choice, so, but there is no problem. Majority of the time I'm telling that normalization process is used, and how it is done is simply आप x minus x min करते हो, divide by x max करते हो, minus x min. So for example, in this case, right, in this case, if I have to calculate using normalization, so what I will do is I will simply calculate my value. So the first, okay, sorry, the first value is, just a second, right? So first value is also 41. So if I do right, 41 minus what is my min value? I see 1, right? So this is my min value, divide by max minus min, right? So max is 168. So 168 minus 1. So you see it came around 0.24, and that's the value you are getting over here, 0.24, right? And how you got it? Similarly, जैसे आपने standard scalar call किया था, you can call, say, from the same library min max scalar, and you just call this scale min max scalar, give the feature range between 0 to 1, and just do a fit transform to your array, and simply you will get the answer. Okay, so that's how using standardization or normalization scaling has been done. So by now you should be, knowing that why it is done, how it is done. So any questions so far? Any queries? Nope. Good. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, somebody asked that in practical, it's not a well, I would say 90% of the time we have to do the normalization. It is, again, it is not a mandatory step, but it is good to have. So let's say if all of your columns are of the similar range, right? If there is not much difference. So let's say you have some kind of a data where every column have of the similar range, then you may not even have to do it. Okay, so you may avoid it, but there is no harm doing the normalization, because let's say if you have of different ranges, which is most likely, then there is no harm, doing this normalization process. So typically you should be doing it. However, it's not mandatory. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Then I will tell you one very interesting fact. ठीक है, अभी तक जो भी हमने किया EDA में, when I told you, right, look at the data types, look at this thing and all. What if I tell you कि there is already one single line of command which does it automatically for you, which does this report building automatically for you. You just have to run that command, that's all. So it does the entire job for you. So I hope you will be very happy if I tell you that, and you will be angry at the same time, that then if already such thing exists, why didn't you tell us at first, right? Why you wasted so many hours of ours, almost 3 hours, on just explaining that how the things are done, when there is a already automatic way to do it. So the simple answer to that is yes, there is an automatic way, but how will you understand that automatic way, right? Because see, these are ultimately machine and algorithms, right? You never know what kind of data you might get in future. So it may happen that it is working now, but it may stop working in future, or for some exceptional data you got and it's not working. So unless you understand what it is doing, it's functioning, how you will be able to fix it, right? So that's the whole point of teaching you everything and then telling you the shortcut. Okay, so shortcut, it's good to know, right? Shortcuts are not bad. It's just that you should be able to come out if you're stuck in shortcut. तो उसके लिए आपको लॉन्ग कट का तरीका पता होना चाहिए, and that's the whole thing, right? So that's why I was teaching you everything, and then at the end I'm telling you shortcut. Okay, so there are these automatic EDA methods which exist. So EDA, it is an essentially early step in most data science or data analysis projects, right? So there are these library which does it for you automatically. So these are the two libraries which will be seeing reports from: pandas profiling and switchviz. So directly jump to the notebook and see what it does, right? So what you can do is, in the beginning, so now you guys will not have it, so you have to run this command: pip install profiling and pip install suites. But for me it's already there. It will take a lot of time, at least it will take 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your net speed also, and your system processing thing. But it might take time, so just be patient, and I'm not doing right now, that's why. So you can simply install this library and then you can call this library. So this installment is just one time thing, right? So once you have installed it, you simply import. So I'm importing pandas profiling as pp, and switch as sv. So if I do that, I have simply imported it. Now as you can see, simple, मुझे ये pp में profile report I am calling, and I'm just simply passing my data, that's all. That is just one single step, nothing else. I have read my data from CSV file and I have passed it over here, profile report. And this report I'm saving as to file. I'm simply saving it as report HTML. That's all. तो अगर आप ये रन करोगे, again it takes some time because it does lot of things. So it takes some time. So I'm not doing it right away. I'm just directly showing you the output. So okay, but I don't have the output. Let me see how much time does it take. Okay, so it's not gonna take much time, but let's see. So you see, it is showing you the processing. कि 68% हुआ, कितना हुआ. So hopefully it should not take much time. Let's see. So what it will do is it will automatically generate this automated report for you, and let's see, how it looks like. But it's showing you the entire processing. It's completed, right? So it is showing that generate report structure. So that is also done. HTML, that is also done. Exporting is also done. So it has done everything. Okay, let me run this also. Meanwhile, we will go through this, right? So these are two different ways of doing it. Either you can do this or you do this, but I am showing you both the ways. Okay, so first I will walk you through this report HTML from the pandas profiling. How does it look? तो सिंपली आप जिस फोल्डर में ये आपने रन किया है नोटबुक, उसमें आप चेक करोगे, देखो ये फाइल पहले नहीं था. दिस हैज जनरेटेड जस्ट सेकंड्स अगो. So you can simply open this file and it will tell you the complete overview. It will be like a complete dashboard. So what it is telling, it's saying that how many number of variables are there, 10. Number of observation 158. Missing cells also it is telling 50 hai. Missing cell it's around 3.2%. Duplicate row 0 hai, right? So it's telling you everything. Whatever आप one by one check करते, right? Duplicates कितने हैं, info क्या है, and all these things. So it is just telling you everything in overview tab. Okay, numerical column कितने हैं, categorical कितने हैं. Variable types में numerical 8 है and categorical 2 है. Okay, so it's just giving you a snapshot of this. Now if you go further, you can go get more detail. So for example, first is index column. So I'm not interested. So now I know I have to drop this. Index is nothing but row number, right? What information does it give? Of course, there will not be any missing values, right? It's just an index. So let's look at this ozone thing, right? So it is giving you the histogram also. So now there is no need for you to plot a histogram. You can directly see over here in this report, and now you know that it doesn't look uniformly distributed. There is no normally distribution curve. So there might be some outlier. Okay, so that is one thing. Another thing, you see in red it is highlighting, so it tells you the unique thing also if you have to take any action. So it is telling that there are missing values. So right, so distinct count also it is telling like how many unique counts are there, right? What is the mean value, what is maximum value, right? Minimum value, zeros कितने हैं, null कितने हैं, 38 है तो 24% है, correct? So memory size कितना ले रहा है, so you can see in the toggle details. In fact, you can get more details in toggle details. So what are these things? The statistic summary first of all. So this tells you that entire range, right? What you got describe जब आप करते हो, तो what is median is nothing but 50th percentile, right? So fifth percentile क्या है, Q1 is 25th percentile, so 25th percentile, 50th percentile, 75th percentile, then 95 and मैक्सिमम. तो यहाँ से आपको और आइडिया लग जाएगा. यू सी 95th वैल्यू तक भी 108 है, सडनली 100 वैल्यू 168 जंप हो गया, तो दैट इज लेस लाइकली, राइट? So these are the some of the, we call it as statistics you get from it. Okay, then you can see the histogram of it, right? Then you can see what are the common values also, you can see. तो categorical column में ये ज्यादा important होगा, क्योंकि वहां पे आपको value count जो करना पड़ता था, that you should not be doing, right? Directly you can check it from here. Then you can see extreme values also. तो extreme values आपको दिख जाएंगे कि कौन कौन से extreme values हैं, right? So maximum value may use, so it will give you a rough idea of outlier. So it may not directly tell you कि ये आपका outlier है, so for that you can try plotting box plot, but this will give you a rough idea of, okay, कि there might be some outliers. So all these information you are getting for all the columns. तो similarly आप solar के लिए check कर सकते हो, 7 missing है, right? अब जैसे wind है, यहाँ पे कोई भी red flag नहीं है, because it seems okay, there is no missing value, right? आपका normal distribution दिख रहा है curve में भी, right? And if you do the toggle details, statistics also looks good, so there is no as a red flag. So this is also one kind of things. So wherever it is you see, so all these things are, very important if you have so much heavy data. So if you see, if you think like if you have 100 variables, imagine how will you do manually, isn't it? आप मैनुअली कैसे हर एक का डेटा जाके डेटा टाइप चेक करोगे एंड मेक श्योर कि वो डेटा कन्वर्टेड प्रॉपरली है या नहीं, मिसिंग है कितना है, कैसे ट्रीट करना है उसको, राइट? सो इट इज, दिस काइंड ऑफ रिपोर्ट्स आर वेरी हेल्पफुल व्हेन यू आर डीलिंग विद very heavy data or big data, right? When you have so many variables to handle. Okay, so yeah, these kind of things you can check. Extreme values, minimum, maximum. So you know that extreme value जो है, it's not that difference, right? मेरे top 5 extreme value में इतना difference नहीं है, 16 से 20 है, जबकि यहाँ पर solar के में बहुत ज़्यादा था, right? Not solar, sorry, I think ozone के में बहुत ज़्यादा था. You see 168 से 105. So you know it gives an indicator of that there might be outliers. Okay. Then temperature, see again there is a flag. Now what is this flag? See, it even give you this information why this flag is coming. So if you hover on that, it gives the question mark and say that this variable has a high correlation with one field, that is temp. Okay, so you know कि this column is a duplicate, because you remember we when we saw the data, we saw that there is a temp and temp C column. So if you have a duplicate column, that also it is telling you that it has a very high correlation, right? It has a missing value of this. Then you can check the same thing in the toggle details, right? Similarly here, month it is telling it has a high correlation with field, that is index, which is obvious. So you know that index you have to drop, right? Day seems to be fine. Then year they have removed. Simply it is like it's a constant, and that's why it is rejected. So that is what also it is telling, because in this thing if you check, it is just a constant value. अगर आप डेटा चेक करोगे, if you go here, if I show you year, right? So all 158 value, all are 2010. You see min max this. So tell me one thing, if you have one thing which is constant, does it matter? Does it make sense to even use it? So that's why it is directly telling you that if, let's say, in case you have missed, just ignore this, it's not important. So it already giving you that it is a constant, so rejected. So it has rejected by itself. You don't, it is giving you instruction that you rejected, if in case you have considered it, right? Then again, this temp column, it is telling that you should be considering only one thing, right? Then you have whether, where it is missing. Okay, so now you are getting how much powerful and useful this entire report generation process is, and you are able to do this in just, one single line. So does it sound interesting? Do you guys appreciating whatever you are learning? Like, does it interest you or no? Or what's your feedback? I want to hear now from you. I will take a pause because now I'm tired of speaking. So I want to hear from you guys, then I will resume back again in the report. So I want to understand your thoughts. How do you feel about it? No thoughts, no excitement of learning this key, और कि नेहा आपने ये पहले क्यों नहीं बताया, this report generation exists, why did you walk us through the entire process? Okay, okay, fine. I think you guys are not in a mood of speaking, so I will resume. So this was all about individual variables. Okay, then it also tells you the interactions. तो जो हमने correlation matrix देखा था, right? This also it gives you. So basically it gives you this. This is, you can think like, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. So you can, so instead of plotting them one by one, you can plot here. You can plot your ozone and solar ka curve over here. So you can say ozone, ozone, then ozone, solar. I think it takes some time to reflect back. So you see ozone and wind. So you can plot ozone with temperature, you can plot. So likewise, you can plot them one by one and see what is kind of relationship. Or you can directly see in a heat map over here. So we already learned heat map, right? So one thing is, either you look at the scatter plot or you look at the values. But let's say if by looking at the values it is too much cumbersome, again you can do check a heat map. So what this heat map says, whenever you have dark blue, that's one, that is strong correlation. Whenever you have dark red, that is also a strong correlation, -1. And wherever you have white, that is 0. In any gradient, it is like blue ka shade hai, to the stronger the blue, stronger the relationship. So that's why you are seeing all the diagonal elements are strong blue, navy blue, because all values were 1, right? Then similarly, as you can see here, uh, ozone ka solar say it is not that high, but we have seen that ozone ka temperature say was very strong. So that's what you are seeing here, right? This color of shade, ozone with temperature, it is very dark, right? It is the darkest of all, if you see. Similarly, ozone ka wind say it is darkest of all, but in negative direction, because it, so these are the two very important one. क्योंकि बाकी आप read कैसे करोगे इसको? You will see in ozone column, this entire column, and you will see what is the maximum colors, right? Brightest color, I should say. So brightest color कौन से हैं? ये दोनों, of course, right? You will ignore the diagonal element. So then you know this and this, right? So these three, of course this है, but वो duplicate इसलिए. So temperature, wind and solar, so these are the three things I have to consider. So likewise, you can read a heat map. Again, it is like, instead of value, it gives more easy to read the colors and identify. And again, for for the confirmation, you can look at the numbers also, right? तो आई वाज टेलिंग यू राइट कि कोरिलेशन मैट्रिक में भी डिफरेंट फॉर्मूलाज होते हैं. तो वन इज पियर्सन. तो यहाँ पर it will tell you, so there are actually 4 such thing happens: Pearson, Spearman, Candler's, Fix, or nothing but all are same, just that formulas are different slightly here and there, but will tell you almost the same thing. Previous one, the Pierce one, ये Spearman का है. So if you see here also, you are getting these 3 only highlighted. Simply candles का अगर आप देखोगे, So it is changing. It will be change a little bit, right? So you see now it has changed color. तो यहाँ भी but almost it is telling you the same thing कि यही तीन color हैं वो ज़्यादा highlight हो रहे हैं, right? So it is up to your choice, but typically we use Pearson correlation only. So that is what you should be stick to. You can check more toggle correlation information. So it tells you what exactly Pearsons are. So it is a measure of linear correlation, lies value between -1 and 1, 0 indicates no linear relationship, right? So all these details it will give you, right? Then you have missing value column. Then missing value you can get which column has highest missing value. So you know ozone has the highest and all these things. So in a matrix also you can get heat map also you can get. So we already saw heat map, right? Dendrogram format also you can get. But so it's like बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. Not everything is relevant. So I'm just telling you whatever is relevant and really important. Okay, so mostly count and metrics ही आप देखते हो to analyze that which is you. So it is just like the heat map, right? Then it also shows you what is the sample of the data. So just a snapshot of data that how does it look like, right? How it feels. So first rows and last rows. Okay, so all these things are there in this, so you can just buy them, go directly over there. So all these things are there in the table generation. So whatever is the warning in that was giving na, that is there stored over here, that these have a high correlation, this is constant, this is missing, this is uniform, this is unique. So all these kind of snapshots you are getting. Okay, interesting laga ye report generation or no? At least yes or no I can expect. Yes. So it is always awesome. So I mean, when you actually have to develop something through this, and when you find such a shortcut, na, it is always feels so much soothing that all of your so much work it is just getting just click of command. So it's always better to learn shortcuts. Okay, but yeah, of course you should not try it all the time. As I said, right, use your judgment कि किस डेटा फ्रेम में आपको डायरेक्ट रिपोर्ट जनरेट करनी है, उससे आप आइडिया लेके देन यू कैन डू योर फर्दर एनालिसिस. सो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज इट कुड बी अ स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट फॉर योर एनालिसिस, बट इट शुड नेवर बी अ एंडिंग पॉइंट. So you can start with this, you can analyze this and further do your EDA. Don't stop on this because this is again very basic, and I will tell you the more advanced EDAs in upcoming sessions. So you will learn more about it. क्योंकि जो हमने कल पढ़े थे, राइट, हम यहाँ पे कोई भी ग्रुप बाय फंक्शन नहीं किया, हमने मिसिंग वैल्यू स्ट्रेट नहीं किया, राइट? ऑल दीज थिंग्स इट डजंट डू फॉर यू, राइट? दैट you will have to do it. Okay, but it will tell you at least half of your job. Remaining 50% you only have to do. Okay, cool. So quickly I'll walk you through the other report also, just for the completeness, and then we'll stop. तो जैसे हमने ये वाला रिपोर्ट जनरेट किया था, सिमिलरली फ्रॉम द अदर लाइब्रेरी दिस स्वीट विज करके आई रिपोर्टेड दिस वेदर रिपोर्ट आल्सो. तो दिस आल्सो लुक almost similar, it's just that it is more interactive, that's all. So up to your choice how you want to do or read it. If you see, it will always give you the same details, like ozone है तो values कितना है, missing है कितना, distinctive है, what is the percentile, this is the histogram. So you, if you hover on this, it will tell you. You can show on the right, there is this if you select this and hover on this and detail, you can see all the things, right? Categorical variables कौन से हैं, numerical associations कौन से हैं, right? So it tells you, it is directly telling within this curve how closely it is related to. So with ozone and temperature you have this 0.669, for wind it has negative 0.59. That is already telling you correlation metric. You don't have to go to the correlation metric to find out, right? Similarly solar पे आप जाओगे तो solar के लिए you can check all these details. Okay, likewise you can check for all the variables. Then what? So yeah, so then this is association, this tells you the snapshot. 3 categorical हैं, 6 numerical हैं, 9 features हैं total. Okay, so associations में if you click that also you can get. So again different ways हैं. See, you see यहाँ पर भी it tells you the number and it tells you the value thing also in terms of shapes. So in this you can say like higher the blue is, stronger the blue is, the darker the blue is, the stronger is the relationship, right? So that's what we are seeing here. Okay, and I think shape also has important. Squares are categorical association from 0 to 1, and uncertainty coefficients is asymmetric. So again, it's very fancy. Up to you if you want to read it from here, or you can simply read it from the other table. Okay, you can find things for here. Circles are symmetric numerical correlation. Trivial diagonal is intentionally left blank for clarity. राइट, तो यहाँ पर इन्होंने फॉर क्लैरिटी के लिए जो डायगोनल कॉलम था उसको इन्होंने ब्लैंक छोड़ दिया है. ओके, फॉर मोर क्लैरिटी, सो ताकि आप उससे कंफ्यूज ना हो. सो अप टू यू, whatever kind of report format you like, you can go generate that and go through that. Okay, but essentially both the reports give you the almost same thing. Okay, fine. So I will stop here. So if you guys have any question, we can clarify those. So which report you like most, first one or the second one? If you will not ask me questions, then I will ask you these kind of questions. First or second, which report you liked? Second? Okay. Somehow I like first more. But yeah, it's individual choice and it doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want, right? Whatever you like. Okay. So you guys have any other questions? Whatever we have learned today, yesterday, or wherever, or if you guys can tell me today itself what other topics you want me to revise on the last day, so that we can do it. So I already know NumPy somebody told, so that I will be doing the revision. For that, is there any other topic which you guys think that I should be doing taking the again, doing a quick recap, not more than 15-20 minutes? I can do that. So think through it, try to go over all the topics, whatever we have discussed, and tomorrow I will ask you, because if you guys don't have any topic, then I will have to, I will be having more of the practical scenarios reports. Okay, cool. With that, then have a good day, everyone, and talk to you tomorrow. Okay, thank you so much.